he had the fastest lap during the race, which put him on the pole here. So I think he wants redemption from yesterday for sure.
Yeah, now these wet conditions may confuse a little bit because we're going to do a single file start. But yes, in terms of how they line up, it is I love this qualifying system. Basically, the fastest lap from the first race at the Muscle Car Challenge will decide the pole. And in fact, we had identical times between Bufamonte and Rafa Matos. And Rafa Matos got the second fastest time by a smidgen, and therefore starts ahead of Bufamonte. But as you can see, Gar Robinson in second place in the red, white, and blue car, going down the back straight as we look at Canada in the distance. What a fantastic venue.
Absolutely.
And what's really neat is when you look at that shot, you're looking south to Canada from the United States.
And that's weird, isn't it? That's a good trivia question. So we're about to go racing. The pace car lights will go off, and they have at turn 11. And we're ready to go racing here. And it's going to be a key start now for the leaders in this one, as Robinson starts to accelerate. Rafa Matos right there with him. Sadly, Mark Miller not taking part in the Ford Mustang this weekend after crashing in his qualifying session. Robinson leads them through from Bufamonte. Prochuk got a good start. Bumps up there as well. Francis Jr. in 5th place as we file down.
Yeah, Henry Francis Jr. in that 44 car made a move there on the start. So he is tucked back in there into the 4th position, right behind Tony Bufamonte.
Shout out for Tom Sheehan, his team working overnight last night. They got turned around by another car in the previous race yesterday. They had a lot of work to do at the rear end of the car, but they worked all night and they've got it going. And Tom Sheehan up in 7th place ahead of Shane Lewis, who also got in the wars. We'll tell you about that in a moment. Let's set this race down. And everybody kind of a little tentative right now, but already Rafa Matos starting to make a move. And Rafa Matos, of course, 2 wins under his belt. His first win coming this year at Road Atlanta, the first ever in Trans Am. And the former Indy guy is on it and wants to impress his old mates. Here we are, side by side.
Did not have the preferred inside line. That went to Gar Robinson, who has the lead from the pole. They've put a little bit of distance between themselves and Tony Bufamonte right now. But right now, good start for all these Trans Am cars as we work to complete the first lap.
Yeah, I think Bufamonte's just playing a waiting game in the number 34 in 3rd place. He knows that Rafa's pretty aggressive when it comes to racing. Gar Robinson wouldn't be holding back too, and Bufamonte was reminded of that yesterday. And I think he's just going to let these two dice for a couple of seconds and just let things settle down. Good start once again from Jordan Bupp, who really enjoyed yesterday. He said he really was looking forward to racing if it did rain. He loves racing in the rain. And his father, Kenny, also saw him this morning. But Bupp really enjoying his time here in Trans Am.
Yeah, I think there's a little urgency on Rafa because him and Tony Bufamonte are going for the championships.
Yes.
And I think he would really rather have Gar between them as he's going for it right now.
Yeah, Bufamonte comes side by side with Matos. Can't pull it off, and Matos, the Brazilian, does a good job of defending in the 88. Yeah, Gar Robinson is here to defend it. His team's based in Michigan, even though he's from Texas. And he'll be here and maybe going to Indy, I think, as well. But he's not going to do the whole season. As you quite rightly point out, Matos and Bufamonte are challenging for the overall championship. Bufamonte yesterday really helped himself, and with the pole position, of course, getting up there. And so now he's very much, he was second in the championship, but he had a big points deficit. And now with this doubleheader, Bufamonte can put himself right back into the driving seat as they head to Indy in a couple of weeks.
Look at how big a gap the front 5 have put on the number 6 position. That's Keith Prochuk out of Chicago. That car just coming into view right there. And there is a little gap now between Rafa Matos and Bufamonte there, the distance between 2nd and 3rd.
Francis Jr. looks as though he's made a mistake, dropped down to 9th position after what was a sterling start.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yesterday in the race yesterday, he had a clutch problem.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So I hope it's not the same type of problem.
So good start to this one, 100-mile race. This is the Motor City Dash, and we've got one on. The conditions now improving as they fly past our commentary position. Robinson leads from Matos. Francis Jr. actually has been registered as 3rd, but I don't think that's the case because Bufamonte is in my picture in 3rd place, very much so.
Yeah, we're just getting word that there's no data on Rafa's car. He's having issues with his transponder, so that could be a little bit of a problem.
Well, you can see what we can see, and it's fairly obvious. We got a great three-way, five-way battle, quite rightly, Tom. And these guys are really pulling away. So we're starting to see the mettle and skill of these drivers in these conditions, because we've got a distinct five-way battle at the front, and it's way ahead of everybody else.
Well, the weekend didn't start off real well for Rafa Matos because he had trouble just getting here from his Florida home because of weather conditions. Yesterday winds up driving most of the race in third place, moving up to second place there with the problems for Gar Robinson. But right now, he is right on the rear bumper of that Chevy Camaro of Gar Robinson as they head down into turn 7 and getting right up there in it. Once again, that's Tony Bufamonte. Not much distance between he and Rafa Matos now.
Yeah, and a real character, Gar Robinson. I talked to him yesterday. I said, are you a little bit race rusty? He's been doing the Pirelli challenge. He's been doing GT4, and I said, are you a bit of Trans Am race rust? And he said, oh no, it's like riding a bike, which is interesting when you've got 500 horsepower under the hood. I've never ridden a bike that was anywhere like that, but he seemed to, and he did show in qualifying. He was what, thousandths of a second off pole?
Yeah, and that's seat time. I mean, anytime you can get in a race car and keep yourself sharp, that's key. So for him, I've seen him have more fun this weekend than anything.
Rafa's making a move, and he's done it. Well, he just got warned for blocking, and he decided, well, forget it. I'll just go into the lead, and that's what I'll do. So Rafa Matos, the 88 Brazilian, leading the way. The man who leads the championship. He's got 2 wins under his belt, looking for a third here. Got a second place yesterday thanks to Gar Robinson spinning on the last lap with corners to go. And Robinson not giving up early. He gets a side swipe there a little bit, but gets the power down early. And Bufamonte in a holding mode in that Mustang, just in third place. Good start, good racing. But Matos, where he wants to be as he goes to 5.
Well, it was a 5-car battle there. Now it is a 4-car battle. Matos, Gar Robinson, Tony Bufamonte, Ernie Francis Jr. This kid looks like your paper boy, but right here, he is young, and his first weekend of driving in this TA2 cars.
Yeah, if you saw him sitting having lunch, you wouldn't be too intimidated by him at all. You wouldn't think he was necessarily a racing driver. He's a little guy, but I tell you what, put him behind a race car. That guy is merciless, and his record speaks for itself. He's won everything he's done. TA4, TA. He's still in the TA Championship. He's doing a bit of NASCAR as well, and he's here doing his first TA2. And I think this could be very much a future for the youngster. And he really has made a name for himself. And that's what I love about Trans Am. It's welcoming for youngsters and the more experienced veterans who've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt.
Yeah, that's a great thing about having this series the way it is, the setup, the rules, and everything. You can have a rookie come in and run just as quick as a 5 or 10-year veteran. So it really evens out the playing field. And Ernie's been doing a remarkable job this weekend in that TA2 car.
And just to get you up to speed, we've been to Sebring, we've been to Road Atlanta, we've been to Homestead in Florida, and our first outing here in Detroit, and in a couple of weeks we head to Indianapolis. So it's a long season of 12 rounds, which rounds up in Daytona at the end of the season in November. So a long way to go yet, and a lot of racing to come from this series. Sheehan doing a really good job. Even though there's a big gap between this group we're watching in the top 4, he's up to 6th place ahead of Napoleon. Honeywell, the rookie, in 8th position. Then Robinson, Van Terry rounds out the top 10. Prochuk is the man I'm looking at, down in 14th position. I don't know what happened to Keith there, but he's down in 14th position. Hopefully he'll try to get up the board as the race goes on. I spoke to him yesterday. He was tickled pink with his result. He's got a bunch of 4th places, Keith, but he's never had a podium, and he was really thinking that today could turn it around for him. But it's not looking like that at the moment.
Yeah, and he may be in danger of losing another position there, as he was starting there in the top 5 and has all of a sudden fallen back into the number 10 position. We are working right now lap number 6, and we are let's see, doing math in public, 11 minutes into this race. Okay, so looking for an hour and 15 race.
Oh, just making it round. Oh, and the car number 12, that's Van Terry. And he just goes through and almost clips the wall as he tries it. Matos is doing a really good job. He set his fastest lap, but both Bufamonte and Matos going into the 137s on that last lap. In fact, Matos a 137.4. and trying to pull away at the front. And Matos, still a long way to go, but I think he wants to try and break the back of this group at the moment early on, as soon as he got the lead. And I think that's the plan, certainly, for the Brazilian.
Well, Vanteri actually overcooking it going down into turn 7, but it looks like he is pulling up once again. We move back on the big screens and take a look at this lead battle, which has broken off a little bit. They have gapped themselves at the very front of the field. Rafa Matos, who took the lead just a couple of laps ago. We look back to Tony Buffon-Monte, yesterday's winner, and he's just kind of sitting there in the catbird seat. Also breaking off a little bit there is the number 4 position of Ernie Francis Jr.
Yeah, I think as soon as Matos got in front of Gar, he's trying to get as far away from Buffon-Monte as he possibly can.
Well, still a long way to go in this, and it's going to be interesting to see how Buffon-Monte plays this. He was so happy yesterday. Talked to him in the press conference, and he had what I would call a big moment where we got to see all his sponsors on the side of the car because they were coming right at us. He got sideways out of 2 of the corners, and I said, how did you get yourself out of that? He said, I closed my eyes and kept my foot in. He said, because I thought I was going to hit the wall on a couple of occasions because Gar was pushing him so hard, and he thought he'd lost it, but he managed to hold it all together, and that was an important win, or an important gain of points for Buffon-Monte yesterday to keep him very much in the hunt. Mark Miller, sadly, turning to Ford Mustang power in qualifying, but getting involved in a qualifying crash. And, of course, Mark Miller, the winner at Sebring, not able, in fact, the only real Michigan native from Holland here this weekend, but sadly not racing today. But he was one of the contenders, but I think with this doubleheader and not scoring any points, it's going to put him way down the field.
And right now, taking a look at that 87 car, Doug Peterson out of Florida. Man, you want to talk about a veteran in this series. Doug Peterson certainly fits that description.
Well, Doug had a problem yesterday. He got turned around by another car that was damaged to the rear and to the right front suspension, but they got it all fixed up. And, yeah, he just found himself out of sorts and kind of knocked around yesterday, but they got it all together. He, of course, Rafa Matos' teammate and team owner, I believe.
And back we go to the front of the field. There was Rafa Matos momentarily, and he's getting ready to come up on one of the slower cars here. So Rafa Matos working at lap number 8. We are scheduled to go 36 more laps before we go the hour and 15-minute time limit. And right now here is lap traffic giveth and taketh away right now, and Rafa Matos having to get around some of the slower traffic.
I was going to say, Rafa depending on the track staff here to put out the flags and let the slower cars know, but he was right up the tail end of that back marker, and I thought a little risky for myself, Jake. I mean, the conditions now, though, are dry pretty much. You can see a few wet patches out there, but grip-wise, they're up to speed, up to temperature, and they're going good.
Yeah, and I don't think he wanted to mess around and get, let Gar get any closer than he already is. So, good on the back marker to get out of the way and be, heads up on that for sure.
And there's a little bit of history today. The first time the TA2s have been on their own here at Belle Isle, and that's great for them. And it's great to see the likes of Ernie Francis jumping out of TA and coming to TA2 to take on Belle Isle. But he said it was just an opportunity. You just couldn't give up. I mean, here we are in the Motor City. These fantastic cars which have got such a history here and were literally built down the road. And, fantastic stuff. I mean, every driver worth his salt wants to be here at Belle Isle.
The battle you're watching right now, that is Matt Parent in the number 14 car. He's in 13th position trying to overtake Anthony Honeywell, in the 76 car. And those two cars not all that far behind Keith Prochuk, who has fallen all the way back from his fine starting position down to 11th place.
It's interesting talking to Rafa. We got a feature on our show coming up on the television about Rafa, and Rafa talks about how growing up in Brazil, everybody's very much aware of Trans Am, and he really liked the idea of racing these cars even when he was a kid. He's still karting to this day. Every kid, it seems, starts off with the karting, and he still, that's a bit of a lock-up by the 91, big time. That's Napoleon, who got in trouble yesterday, and they had to drag his car out of the way. But yeah, Rafa's saying that he loves racing the Trans Am cars, and he's done pretty much every kind of car, but was well known, was a rookie Indy Lights champion an Indy Lights champion and a rookie champion in Indy, and certainly very famous for racing around the Belle Isle circuit. So this is just a home from home for him.
Yeah, Rafa Matos was back in the old Atlantic Series back in the 2007, and really got caught up in the whole situation with the combining of the old Champ Car Series and the old IRL, and there just weren't a whole lot of seats that were available. He eventually did find some seat time in the new IndyCar Series, but that really didn't last all that long for him. He has found himself a home here in Trans Am, to be sure.
Jake, I wonder at this point, you're looking at the clock, 57 minutes. What is your engineer saying? I mean, the race has settled down, it's spread out. Everybody's looking for where they are and how hard they can push. Conditions really now are pushable, I should say. I mean, there's definitely a dry line out there, but there's still a long way to go in this race.
Yeah, and it's all going to come down to tire management, and if it stays cool, you can run a little bit harder, I would think. But I think Rafa is doing a little bit of both. Oh, got a car on the wall there. Number 49, Ethan Wilson.
Yeah, that's one of the rookies. Yeah, that's one of Mark Miller's boys, and he had a good run yesterday, but sadly he has buried himself in the tire wall right there.
Had a good run going in this one. He was sitting there in 6th place, just behind Jordan Bupp.
Not sure what happened. He might have locked him up there.
Sure, we'll get a replay of it. Yesterday, Ethan Wilson from Santa Clara, California, in the Dodge Challenger, burying it, sadly, into the wall after a 6th place yesterday.
Well, he's able to get it out.
Good boy. There you go.
Looks like there's some damage on the left side of the car. Here's the replay on it.
Well, he looked as though he turned in fine. He just right down the road.
So there is heavy damage to the left front of that car. So you can imagine if it does that kind of damage going into the tire wall, what it would be if you were just going into bare concrete right there. So a lot of rub underneath there as he brings the car on around, damage to the hood.
Yeah, I got to say, I think the main that's why he's trying to sort of scuttle his way back to the pits quickly, because to me it looks like but it doesn't look as though he's done the suspension any harm. I think it's merely just bodywork rubbing on the tire at the moment. We'll soon find out. Whoa! Well, there's the bodywork gone.
Yeah, and we expected him to come into the pits, I think, there, and he just came down the front straightaway and
carried on.
Yep.
I don't know if the official will be too pleased with that, given that he's just thrown half his car onto the main straight, but never mind. He's still going, and as you can see, the suspension is fine because he's turning fine, he's Ethan Wilson, but a lot of damage to the front, and there's still not going to be able to go fast when that bodywork is literally clinging to the ground. Back to the leaders, though, and now traffic is the instance, Jake. We've got a real problem now for Matos. He's got to be patient now, and he's not known for his patience. Not many Brazilians are. He really needs to be careful because there's not a lot of room for overtake, and there is let's face it, a big gap between the guys at the front and how fast they're going, and the guys at the back who are going as fast as they can and may not necessarily know where to be on the track. We saw that in qualifying.
Right, and I think he's going to have to be patient and aggressive at the same time.
Yep.
Because you want to be smart about this, and you want to set him up in the right spot, but you don't want to rush it and get yourself in any trouble. Even if you have to check up just a little bit, Gar's coming, and Gar's coming quick, so the closing rate is going to be pretty big here. So it'll be interesting to see how he does.
And the problem for the guys who are back markers right now is that they don't want to go offline. They don't want to go onto the wet part of the circuit and risk slipping themselves. They'll try to get out, they'll see the flags, but I'd be the last to go straight onto a really nasty, sticky, wet patch right now if the leaders were coming through. But now we're going to witness it firsthand. Here we go. Well, that was easy.
Yeah, I think the number 26 gave him a little bit, a little bit of room, let off a little early.
All good work. Gar Robertson not making it as easy, though, and Roos getting out of the way for Gar Robinson. And now the question is, with the gap of 2 seconds a moment ago or a last lap, let's see how Robinson can react. His last lap at 136.7 was identical to Matos, but this traffic could play its role, and Bufamonte likewise, right there in second place. His last lap at 138.8, so getting slowed down a little bit.
And right there, just maybe a little bit, Gar Robinson, as he comes around that car. And it's going to depend on where you come up on cars around certain parts of the the racetrack, because there are certain turns that are just impossible to try and really get around somebody at speed. So your timing may be a part of whether they're able to catch up or whether they're going to lose ground here to Rafa Matos right now.
And it's really hard on a track like this because, as you can see, the blue flag's literally coming out of the fencing. But you really don't want to get distracted when you're racing here on a track like this, because you're looking for flags, you're looking for indicators, but you've got enough on your mind watching the car in front of you, watching the track, and trying to get past back markers, as Rafa does here. And he's just got past Ethan Wilson, who's clearly going slower than he wants to. I don't know if it's worth coming in for Ethan to maybe try and move that bodywork around, because he's not helping himself at the moment.
Yeah, and I'd hate to see anything else fly off that car
Right.
and cause a caution. Although Gar would love for something to fall off the car and get a caution, maybe get caught up to Rafa a little bit.
Well, you've almost got to guess with 52 minutes. You're going to get one caution on a street circuit like this.
Well, we still got that.
Whoa. You don't want to hit that either. That could easily cause a puncture.
They do have the red and yellow flag right here before that on the main straightaway here to make sure everybody knows. Eventually, I think they'll pull that. As a matter of fact, they did just as I said that. So everybody hopefully has seen it and will not make that part of the race course.
Stephen Lustig, who was in the top 10 yesterday. In fact, he finished 10th overall. Man from New Jersey, all the way down, at the moment anyway, in 16th place with Roger Roos with him. And Ethan Wilson just dropped down now to 15th place. And watching out also for Bufamonte. He was in his own battle from third place, just going through the back markers. I say battle, he was just trying to get through traffic. Ernie Francis Jr. still fourth. Jordan Butt fifth. Shane Lewis, great story from Shane. Shane Lewis forgot his credentials yesterday. So he got to the gate and they said, you can't come in here. He said, but I'm racing. He said, He said, no, I'm racing.
Sure you are.
And they said, sure you are. And he said, no, I got to get in. I got a race to get to. They said, okay, well, you need a ticket. So off he went, bought his general admission ticket, got himself inside, put on the overalls, ran like hell, and got down and got in the car. So I don't know if you get a refund for that, but that's paying for your own entertainment, I think.
Yeah, that's he's really paying to be here at that point.
I think the policy is if you finish in the top three, you get the refund.
Yeah, that's it. I think so, too. Anyway, that's the story of Shane Lewis, who's got a great history of racing in Trans Am. He's always around the top five in any one race, but he struggled a little bit this weekend, as a few guys have. I mentioned Mark Miller already.
And Ernie right on the back of Tony Bufamonte, and I believe that's for third.
Yeah, Ernie actually has got his tail up. I've been keeping a watchful eye on Ernie, who, you know, my first question to him is when I got his, how different is going to be a TA versus a TA2? And he goes, you know what? Honestly, there's that potential caution.
Well, not if he gets it fired up. That could just be a local caution. Looks like Bobby.
No, that's going to be a caution. He's taking some track with him.
Big hit.
And who are we looking at?
I believe that's Bobby Roos. I couldn't see the number on that one.
Well, Bobby Roos drives the number 26. Sorry, Roger Roos drives the number 26. Well, we'll keep an eye out, but it could well change the dynamic of this race as both Bufamonte and Ernie Francis Jr. continue their flight. And this is youth against experience for sure. Bufamonte against Ernie Francis Jr. And I know that Ernie will really go home on a Sunday night if he can beat Tony and go, right, I'm in this. I want to be part of this, because I was asking him if he could stick around TA2, and he's, of course, got the TA Championship to win. He's leading that. But I think he'd like this scalp, wouldn't he?
Absolutely. I think he's having more fun. There it is. I don't think full course caution there. I don't think he was right in the way of that exit.
Man, there is heavy damage.
Yeah.
Heavy damage to that car.
Yeah, it's car number 8.
Bobby Roos out of Hoover, Alabama. And so we got the full course caution here. 49 minutes left, or 28 laps left here. And our first yellow flag. Of course, you might have figured we would have had one earlier than this due to the wet conditions when we got started. And now I don't think the track conditions had anything to do with this. That car just into the tire barriers there. We got a pretty dry racetrack, and we have not had any more rain.
I'm sure we'll get a replay. He may well have hit the inside curb, which had thrown him further than he expected.
That's what happened yesterday in the IndyCar race for Graham Rahal.
Yeah.
Coming through turn number 13, got the right side wheels up, and that shot him straight left into the wall. Now just the opposite here, it would appear, for Mr. Roos.
Does give us a little time to talk about what's gone on so far, Jake. We've had a good season so far, some good clean racing, mostly in the south, out down in Southern Florida, obviously at Sebring, and Mark Miller taking the win there. Ernie Francis has been on our radar for sure in TA2, but we've had some good runs by several drivers.
Yeah, and I think Matos is really
he's been the story.
He's been the story for sure. Winning 2 of the last races, but Joe Napoleon, he's shown great driving through this season, and he's really improved himself a lot from last year. So he'd be a guy to watch, and Jordan Bupp as well.
I talked to Jordan this morning, and he kind of gave me a potted history of how he got into Trans Am. And of course, his dad was a big racer, still is. Won the Rolex, and at 6 years old, his dad threw him in a go-kart and said, "Give it a go." And he kind of liked it. He was okay with it, but then he started playing football, broke his ankle, and the parents said, no, that's too dangerous. Let's put you back in a race car.
Yeah, well, that's obviously what you do, right?
I thought that was great. He goes, yeah, they thought that was too dangerous for me. So they said, let's go racing again. And, of course, he's done Continental Tire Challenge. He's done plenty of other IMSA. And now, of course, really, really enjoying this. He got a podium in Florida recently. And, he just feels like he's one of the top runners now. He just seems very settled. He had his own medical problems. I can tell you about that, too. But he seems now the complete man for racing and really enjoying it. He's very sated in his Trans Am career as the Corvette out on track. I had a close look at that this morning. I got inside and had a quick look around. That's a nice car.
Yeah, those are. I wish I was still driving that thing. I got to drive it last year here for the Trans Am race, and man.
So you did this car, right?
Yeah, did that. Did the pace car
That's
deal.
That's a tough job.
It can be. It
well,
can be a
only
little
because
confusing.
everybody else wants you to go faster. You're trying to control it. You're listening to race control.
It can be a little confusing, but it was a lot of fun, and those Corvettes are nice.
Let's look at the top 10, the way they run right now. Rafa Matos, who took over the lead fairly early in this race. Gar Robinson in second. Tony Buffamante still running in third. Ernie Francis, who has won 2 races. He's won each year here on Belle Isle, the TA4 back in 2016. Last year, the TA. He is in 4th place. Jordan Bupp is 5th, followed by Shane Lewis, Tom Sheehan, Joe Napoleon, Paul Vanteri, and Keith Prochuk. That's the way they run here in the top 10 with 27 laps to go. Yeah,
and of course, double points here this weekend. We mentioned it. This is a pivotal time in the championship, Jake, because two good results for Buffamante or Matos today could really, really change their year. Yeah, and the way they're running right now and the way they ran yesterday, I think it's going to be close. I mean, it's going to be really close. And I think the double points are actually going to help some of the other guys that aren't Buffamante and Matos. Because, if Mato wins today, that points difference is only going to be about 10 or 15 points. So that's one race. But I think it'll really help guys like Shane Lewis and those guys that are really just on the fringe of being in the championship hunt. Yeah, it's going to be close. 30 points for a win, 27, 25, and down on through. And bonus points for 1 point leading the lap, etc. So there's plenty of chances. And Buffamante took one and getting the pole position already. And, there's a lot of opportunity to make hay here. And the conditions have not been easy. I mentioned the drizzle we got in qualifying, and I think that put a few people off. We had a curtailed qualifying session to start the weekend off, and obviously this is a busy weekend here in Detroit. You've got the Indy cars on a doubleheader themselves. We've got IMSA here as well, so it's all happening. It's putting some good rubber down, but unfortunately the rain's kind of pushing that away.
And as I understand it, the different rubber from the different cars, they're not the same manufacturers for the rubber, and sometimes that can make slick going for the people who follow you, because the rubber doesn't necessarily meet up, I guess you can say.
Right, it can actually make it slicker.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I talked to Shane and I talked to Gar as well. They were both. There's parts on the track that are definitely slicker and parts on the track that you have a bunch more grip. So it's just I think one of the tricks is finding where you can get the most grip and working on that corner and kind of sacrificing the other ones.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to see Gar Robinson make a big move here when we come back to Green Flag Racing as the 87 car once again. Doug Peterson in.
Yeah, and I think that's for passing under yellow, or somebody passing him under yellow, or is there a problem to that car? I think this is a penalty, but...
Well, they're looking all around the machine.
I think it's the number 77 that was being reviewed for passing the 87.
Okay.
Doors coming off. That is not good.
Yeah, that doesn't look as though he's gone anywhere. Doug Peterson, who I mentioned before, had an off yesterday. Obviously, he's got some damage because, maybe they're checking the tires, but that mechanic there is not just checking
the
tires.
helmet's coming off.
Yeah, he's out. So, the Lear-sponsored car is out. The rather battered Ethan Wilson's car there in the orange and white with the left side still somewhere floating around the track. It'll be a memento for somebody, I'm sure, by the end of the day. But we're under caution here as Doug Peterson out of the car, and he'll be able to watch on the sidelines as Rafa goes for glory. Rafa Matos, that is. And just to remind you, Rafa Matos, Robinson, Bufamonte. Robinson not chasing the championship, Gar Robinson, but was looking for back-to-back wins here in Detroit and still is. Just missed out on it yesterday. Had a spin in the last lap chasing down the leader. And that allowed Bufamonte to get Matos to get a second position yesterday, which really helped his championship. Ernie Francis Jr. will be vying for a podium, and I think that's going to be the battle for me to watch, is whether Ernie can get on the podium, because that would be a job well done if he can do that in his first outing in TA2.
Well, one advantage for those first two cars in the serial, they should be able to get a jump there on the battle for third and fourth because they do have that lap car between them. Here's the thing with that lap car. It's not necessarily all that much slower. Yeah, it is damaged, but as we saw, that car was right up there. Ethan Wilson was running in sixth place when he ran into the wall. So he may not be the easiest person to get around and to keep this into a four-car battle.
You know, and Rafa's got to be careful at the restart, Jay. He doesn't want to get caught like he did by Mark Miller at Sebring.
Yeah, and at Bufamonte, I mean, he's had some tremendous restarts yesterday. So, yeah, Rafa's really got to be smart about this because Gar's coming.
Yeah, and I got the feeling we were at Road Atlanta, and he got the feeling that Rafa he got out of the car, and you could tell that monkey was off the back, as it were, after winning his first Trans Am. He'd been around for a while, but he just hadn't won in Trans Am, and so I think just getting that win has kind of given him a new lease on life and just given him a bit more confidence. Not that he didn't lack any, but it was just good to get that first win. It's psychological.
Yeah, for sure, and that puts you that can set a tone for the whole season. Sure. Getting that off your back, getting your first win, and that you carry so much more confidence when you come to the next racetrack.
Jordan Butt will be looking for a good restart too. He's in fifth place, the Fort Lauderdale, Florida man.
I think got an update here. The 87 gearbox failed.
That's what it was.
That was the gearbox. Yep.
I think they're going to go green this time. Conditions almost fully dry now, and great for racing here at Belle Isle. The yellow caution flag is out. We welcome you to wherever you're tuning in to Trans Am Racing here from Detroit. Very much the spiritual home. This, the Motor City Dash. And everybody wants to win this one for sure. This is the trophy you want on your shelf. If you're going to get one, this is one of them, Matt.
Yeah, this is the stomping ground for Ford, Chevy, and Dodge. I mean, it's the Pony Wars. So this one is like, I would say, Trans Am's Daytona.
Yeah, it was described by, I think it was Bufamonte described it like, this is like our Super Bowl with IMSA here and Indy here. It very much is. I mean, it's the spotlight and it's the highlight of the year for many, many drivers out there. And right now, Rafa Matos looking for that restart. The lights go off on the course car, and we are about to go racing again, and Rafa Matos is going to have to hold off Gar Robinson as they come out through the right-hander and start to accelerate. Now Rafa's in control of this race. The Corvette peels off. Rafa in the 88, the yellow and black. He holds them all up. Bufamonte looking for a restart. Here we go.
Gar didn't let him get too far away.
Good stuff by Gar Robinson. He looks to the outside. He's got a good run on him. Bufamonte's got a better run, but he's looking on Ethan Wilson, who isn't running full speed anyway. And through he goes, so no traffic problems for him. Big traffic in the midfield there, but Rafa leads this way from goal. Oh, big smash at the back, and it's the 76 of Honeywell. Well, the Honey Badger just got Honey Badgered.
Yeah, that almost looked like he got turned.
Yeah, I think he did. And that's one of the rookies here, but experienced driver, but a rookie too, Trans Am. But that's a nasty incident, and that's not going to help Rafa's chances, because I'm sure that's only going to bring out the caution again, which it does. And they're going to have to do it all again. But exciting, dramatic racing, as we expect from Belle Isle. And Tom, I'm sure you could probably put us into about 20 years of similar incidents here at Belle Isle.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're coming down off of the front straightaway into that right-hand turn, which is turn 1. It is really narrow there as you come through between 1 and 2, and it widens out. And we saw him.
Oof.
You're looking back up at that car. It's been pretty well used up, as they say. And so we'll wait to see. It's going to take a while to get the course cleared off, because there is debris over much of that course. But they had really just gotten, well, here's the replay on it.
So everybody in the lead pack goes through cleanly. Now look to your right-hand side. Yeah, I think he basically caused it himself. I mean, he came across, and
I'm not sure. He had plenty of time to get back over to the left side of the racetrack. I'm not sure what made him so urgent. He just came right over the top of him.
And as you can see with the damage on that car, that's one of the places you really don't expect to hit the wall, so they don't have the tire barriers out there.
So you're going to hit full impact, yeah.
Yep.
Well, you can see from how the car's literally scattered across the track, and the drivers have got to be careful here, because the last thing you want to do is drive over a piece like just Rafa just did, but you don't want to drive. He drove over the middle of it purposely, but look how he trailed it there. That could be not a good sign, because you only need to get a slight puncture, and or even worse than that, a slow deflating puncture, which will catch you out when you think the tire's fine. As you turn in, suddenly you're in a real mess.
Yeah, I think they'd like to see that cleaned up as soon as possible, especially, get a broom out there pretty quick, because that can be devastating for Rafa if, you lead the race and get caught with a flat tire.
Once again, watching here on the replay, and it looks like he was coming back across the track once again, and wasn't aware of the car off to his left-hand rear side, got turned around and whapped into the wall.
Well, the good thing about Belle Isle is these guys who are doing the clearing up are some of the most experienced in the game. They love coming here to Belle Isle, and we've had so many different incidents in different formats of racing, and these guys are as quick as can be at clearing up the Belle Isle circuit, because they know that we ain't going racing until it's done. So, they're getting pretty quick at doing it. But it's going to be an interesting restart. Rafa did a good job last time, but so too did Gar Robinson. Gar Robinson's restart was really good. He'll want to do the same again if he can. We'll report that the driver is out of the car and okay.
Yeah, Gar wants another restart like that. I bet the next few corners he would have made a pretty big move. He got a big run on Rafa, so and that puts the pressure back on Rafa as well to have an even better restart. So this will be interesting.
There's a little bit of a bump right there where that incident happened, too. So you get a little bit light. A few years ago during the IndyCar race, we saw A.J. Allmendinger, who was driving that weekend for for Roger Penske in the IndyCar series. And in both ends of the doubleheader, wound up into the turn 2 wall, just exactly to the outside, instead of the inside, as we saw for that particular incident. So with 23 laps to go, or right around 34 and a half minutes to go, Rafa Matas the leader, Gar Robinson, Tony Buffamante, Ernie Francis Jr., and Jordan Bupp. So no change there in that top 5. Joe Napoleon, Tom Sheehan, Shane Lewis, Paul Vanteri, and Keith Prochuk. They round out the top 10.
And if you've just joined us, this is the Motor City Dash. Tom Michaels, Jake Dannenbach, and Jonathan Green bringing you the action from Belle Isle, this famous circuit, and certainly a fantastic home for Trans Am. 52 years of great racing, and we're racing in Detroit since '84. Trans Am, and as Tom mentioned earlier, Back then, Formula One was here, and they were the support class. They didn't like it much because Trans Am, as always, were ripping up the courses. But here, Trans Am holding off the Belle Isle circuit. It's pretty robust these days.
Well, I'll tell you what, I enjoyed some of those races that they had. I got to see several of them starting in '87. And one of the funniest things that I have seen, and I can't remember the local driver's name, got out of his Trans Am car and people were cheering and he starts waving to them, and then they cheer more and he starts waving more and continues. The cheers get louder and louder and he waves more to them as he's walking along. He didn't realize Paul Newman was standing behind him.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Paul Newman, a former driver here in this series.
Exactly. And a pretty handy one, too, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are under caution here. And like we said, Rafa's got to get another start. And this could be, I say that, there could be another caution. But I certainly think if I were Rafa, I'd be thinking, okay, I need to break it early, not get into a tussle. Because the problem for Rafa is he's actually worried about Bufamonte. What he doesn't need is Gar Robinson all over the back of him, getting himself into a fight and allowing Bufamonte to creep ever closer, or likewise Bufamonte getting ahead of Gar Robinson, because that's where the championship fight for the lead of the championship is.
So now you've got the top 5 cars there all right together. They don't have the lap car anymore, so we'll see what Bufamonte, Ernie Francis Jr. and company can do as far as keeping pace with those front 2 cars. But we still have the pace car out there.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in the lead, a guy who wants to win that's not for the championship behind you, wanting to overtake you. Then you've got the second place guy in third. I mean, it's it's pretty, it can be.
Well, and Rafa's got to be careful because Gard's got nothing to lose here, and you know he said it in the media and in the press conferences. He just wanted to give his boys that prepare the cars here in Michigan something to smile about, and he's going for glory, and that's all he cares about. Whereas Rafa's got to think about the championship. If Rafa loses out and ends up on the wall here today, he's going to be really miffed.
Yeah, I'd almost see him, even if Gard did get a run. Rafa's aggressive at one point, but it might be one of those things where he lets him go and then chases him down again.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Gar Robinson's fastest lap yesterday, a 1:35.274 and 1:35.9. They're not far off those times, so they're getting quicker and quicker. Ernie Francis Jr. was telling me that, the curtailed time they had on track because of what was going on with the lightning and the drizzle. Over the weekend, they were going faster and faster as the laps came down. The lights off on the safety car and Prix car here at Belle Isle, so we're about to go racing again with 30 minutes to go. It's going to be a 30-minute sprint here, and that's why they call it the Motor City Dash.
Rafa Matos, he has led since very early in this race. He's out of Boca Raton, Florida. We mentioned it earlier that he had some travel problems. He was supposed to be here for the media luncheon on Thursday, but was not able to get the connection to get out of Florida because of the weather situation. Yeah,
they've certainly got the rainy season going down there.
Shane Lewis, this is only Shane's second time here. So he's doing a really good job for only seeing this place twice. I remember last year he actually signed up to go for a ride with an Indy car in one of the Camaros so he could at least see the track before the race.
Well, they're going back and forth trying to scuff the tires, keep the heat in the tires, as well as get any debris or dirt off of the tires as we get ready to go here and go back to green flag racing. We're not going to go yet.
Yeah, I was just checking. He's just passed us the Corvette, and I think we're going to have another lap. Yep, we are under safety. And now this is a problem, Jake, for also you can see them weaving, and for those new to racing, that's basically just trying to keep temperature in those tires, and that's not easy in these conditions. It's cool, it's a little damp, it's not going to help them, is it?
It'll help, scrubbing the tires and especially once there is an accident or an incident and you get offline, you pick up all that stuff on your tires as well, so you don't want that. But yeah, it's pretty important to keep heating the tires right now.
So everybody weaving from side to side. We're going to have a really interesting finale to the weekend here. Part of the Verizon IndyCar Series here and the Chevrolet Grand Prix of Detroit. And Chevrolet, a massive presence here, and they would love to see one of their cars win here for sure. Three-dimensional services group, Motor City Dash is what you're watching. We welcome you wherever you're tuning in to see this fantastic display of muscle car racing. I know there's a few of us out there who love this just because of the sheer noise, guts, and thundering of these cars that, yes, harps back to history, but is just as modern as ever, and there's nothing like the sound of these guys flying past start commentary position. I was out at the pre-start yesterday, and just to hear them roar into action, it's just great.
Well, you're talking to me, a long time, either a Mustang or a Camaro owner over the years, and that's what's neat about this. You really have that personal investment if you're one of these folks that drives one of these cars, and it's great that you have all three of these marks back into it. For a while, Mustang was the only one of the former pony cars that was being sold, but now you've got it back with Camaro. You've also got the Challengers out there, and so it is, well, we're getting ready for a real Donnybrook here, I think.
Yes, we are, and certainly Rafa Matos is trying to fly the flag for the Coleman team and his Chevrolet team as they go racing again. The lights off on the car, this time on the Corvette. And now Rafa has got to wind himself up. Gar Robinson sticking himself right underneath the 88. And Buffamonte in the Mustang, and the all-blue Mustang in third position. Watch out for Ernie Francis Jr. as well. Here we go, folks.
Oh, Rafa got a pretty good restart there.
Buffamonte got away well, and Bub got away well too. He's all over the back of Francis Jr. at the moment. But a good clean restart as we go into turn 2. 26 minutes to go as the green flags wave. Rafa Matos of Brazil, the championship leader, leads the way from Gar Robinson, last year's winner here at Belle Isle. And Buffamonte trying to hold off the youngster Ernie Francis Jr., making his debut this weekend in TA2.
It looked like Gar Robinson was trying to make that move, or looking to make that move, coming down into one of the best passing spots, but was not able to do it. Now they work up through 4, up through 5, and then they'll be making the right-hand turn onto the long back straightaway. It's got a big kink in it back there, but the Strand, fastest part of this race course.
Yeah, and if you notice, we were talking to Mark Miller yesterday, you notice as they come off of the straightaways how they sort of fan out.
Yep.
He was telling us that's for aero and clean air. That's not necessarily they're just fanning out or trying to pass. It's really important for aero for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting as we look at the course, certain parts of the course, as we come down the closing stages of this, and there's a possible overtake on, you've got to be oh so careful. This is completely dry through this section you're looking at here, and you can see it brilliantly from overhead. But there are other sections of the circuit where if you go offline to make an overtake, you're on wet ground and wet track, and you've got to be oh so careful. So you've really got to pick your spot, and that's going to make overtaking in the closing stage of this one really hard. And I think under-braking is probably your best bet.
Well, Gar Robinson is starting to lose contact with the front runner, Rafael Matos, and he's got to keep his eyes on the mirror because right there is Tony Buffamonte.
And Ernie Francis Jr. right there with him too in the number 44. There he goes, through your shot now.
That 44 car last year was driven by Adam Andretti as we got to spin.
Tom Sheehan.
Yeah, Tom Sheehan.
Looks like he'll be able to get it rolling.
No, that's not the way, but he's got it. Yeah, they've spent a lot of time on the rear end of that car, and he's just dinged it again, but this time on the right-hand side. So it's been a tough weekend for the New England folk and his team putting that car together. But they've, he looks as though he's got it going again. But Tom Sheehan not having the most auspicious, and Gar Robinson getting sideways there for a moment as he really puts the hammer down now, trying to hold off Tony Buffamonte. Buffamonte, though, trying to stay with Rafa Matos, and I think that's what's giving him the hurry up. But Rafa is pulling away here. Rafa's last lap, a 1:37.1, so he is definitely. We've got cameras all over his car, so we'll know exactly just how fast he's going. But Rafa really pushing on now.
Hasn't put a wheel wrong
Not yet.
the entire weekend. Rafa Matos.
Yeah, I think that's really what's impressed me is that he drives so aggressively. It's great to watch him in any practice session, but he's always seemingly in control. I've not seen him make any real errors, and I think that's his single-seater experience coming through. These are quite different cars to drive.
Yeah, that's definitely some of his IndyCar coming out. I mean, those guys are very, very methodical, very precise on where they put the car. Whereas you got some guys that come from stock cars, we like to lean on each other, and that's, I think this course is really playing into Rafa's hand this weekend.
Yeah, no question about it. I was asking Robinson about how they judge the corners and the braking points, because obviously it's set up for Indy, so that when you see 100 meters or a 50 meter mark, it doesn't really tell you anything for Trans Am. And he said, they literally go by the bumps. It's hard to get any peripheral view of what you're looking at in front of you, because it's all a tunnel. It's all one big tunnel, and very hard to learn, I'm sure. Looks like damage to the 12 car.
Yeah, he was way slow there for a second, but he got back up to speed.
Van Terry, that's what we're looking at in the number 12. There he is. Chased by the number 14 Mustang of Perrin. And look, the 97 of Tom Sheehan, they had big damage.
Yeah, I think he was actually black flag for damage. I don't think he realized how bad it was.
It's too bad, too, because he was running in 7th place, had a good race going.
Yeah, and that was a big bounce back from yesterday. Although he did have damage yesterday, and he did a heck of a job getting back up to 8th, I think, finishing 8th. So kind of disappointing for him this weekend.
Well, he's pulled the pin, has Rafa Matos, and he's starting to build a 136.5 his last lap. Really impressive, and he is taking it to them for sure, because it's hard to live with at the moment, the kind of pace he's on. Perfect conditions now, dry conditions, and they're putting down more and more rubber as the race goes on with 21 minutes to go. And Gar Robinson and Buffamonte losing ground a little bit, Ernie Francis Jr., but staying with this group. There's Buck. Behind them is Napoleon there. It's a good run by Napoleon. He's up to 6th place at the moment. And Joe Napoleon from Magnolia, Texas, had a terrible day yesterday, got in the wars on a couple of occasions, and they eventually had to clear his car away. He caused one of the cautions, but he's up there now. Shane Lewis 7th. Project's still in good well. Keith Project's up to 8th position now, and that's much better, having started this race all the way down in 14th place at one point.
Yeah, he's doing a heck of a job. But looking at some of these lap times, you said Matos ran a 36, Gar ran a 38 last lap. So he's opening up a pretty big gap.
This is very much a masterclass here at Belle Isle, and just get the feeling that Rafa, with knowing his old mates from India here and knowing the course and knowing the prestigiousness and history of this event, wants to definitely get that trophy for a win here, and he's putting on a show.
I'll tell you, it's the interesting part of auto racing, and you're seeing it on back-to-back days here. Yesterday, it was Gar Robinson chasing down Tony Buffamonte. Those two were dominating the race, and kind of sitting back there in 3rd place for most of the race was Rafa Matos. Today, it is Rafa Matos who gets out front, and then he has not been headed since I believe he probably took the lead on maybe the 3rd lap of the race.
Yeah.
I think they learned a lot yesterday, too, so that helps a lot.
Yeah, and if you're tuning in just a few minutes ago, it looks like the conditions are perfect here. Well, I can tell you, at about 10 o'clock this morning, the heavens opened quite literally here in Detroit. We had a huge storm come in. Not a lot of wind, to be fair, but a lot of water laid down on the track. And, I'm glad to say it cleared up in time. We were worried that it might just linger, but it didn't. We obviously started in damp conditions, but not damp enough for wet tires. So we started on slicks, but we did do a precautionary start in single file, a rolling start in single file, and that allowed Matos to get ahead. And we take a look at Gar Robinson, the local man, effectively racing for the first time, but he's still got that Texas flag on top, because, of course, he's based in San Antonio and sponsored by the 74 Ranch Resort.
Yeah, it looks like they're all kind of just fanning out right now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can hold a candle at the moment to Rafa. I mean, like you say, a 35.9 compared to a 36.2 from Robertson, 36.9 from Buffamonte. So they're struggling to try and stay with him. The gap between Buffamonte and Matos, some 3 seconds, almost 5 seconds at times. So Matos really taking it to them now with 18 minutes to go. And the key now as a racing driver, Jake, is to keep the concentration. This is where it really tells. You've had a long weekend, a lot to think about. But these last 18 minutes, this is where the concentration. He's got the fitness, we know that. He karts all the time to keep that fitness. We saw that he's got a lot of bicycles out there, so he's a fit man. But, it's concentration now, because it's easy to make a mistake. We saw it in Indy. Graham Rahal yesterday throwing it into the wall in a great position to win a race, possibly. But that's how quickly it can end up here at Belle Isle.
Right, concentration is key, and I think Rafa is in his groove.
Yep.
He's hitting his marks, and he's in it. But yeah, you're right. It's once you break your concentration for that split second and make a mistake, I mean, that can be pretty detrimental. And your mental strength is just as important as your physical strength, sometimes even more so. So I think all of the top 3 guys are just, in their groove right now. And I think the only one that might be a little bit frustrated is Gar.
Yeah.
Because this is his one-off race.
Tom, did you see Rafa race Indy here?
I'd have to go back and look at my my notes to see which year it would have been. But anyway,
early
like
90s, yeah.
I actually saw him running
midnight
first in 2007 in the Old Atlantic Series. So was very, very competitive there, and it was later on that he was into the Indy cars. But unfortunately, he's one of them that, because there aren't that many rides out there, didn't get a long try at the Indy cars. So he moves on and moves here into the sports cars, and he's made himself a home here, to be sure. And you can see, as these cars go around the racetrack, the rest of the year, these are regular streets that everybody drives on, and this is Michigan. You might have heard Michigan has winter, and it does indeed affect the cars, or the track, I should say. The streets make them quite rough.
Yeah, no kidding. So another car in the pits. That's the number 99.
Thomas Ellis.
Yep, Thomas Ellis. And as you can see, the jacks are up and they're doing
Looks
some
like
work.
Might have been a flat tire there.
Could well have been. So his day is over, but it's certainly not over for this man, Rafa Matos. And like so many Brazilians, it doesn't matter what you give them. If it's got a steering wheel and 4 wheels, look at Elio, look at Nelson Piquet Jr., and look at Rafa Matos. They love driving in any form of car, wherever they're given a chance, and they just love racing. It's as simple as that. Growing up in Brazil, that's the key, and they've got a heritage of it and a history of it, and especially Brazilians coming here to the United States and putting on a show, and there's more coming. The latest, Mateus Least coming into the IndyCar series, and just like straight out the box, it's almost they create these same guys. Montoya's son coming through, another South American kid coming up on his way, and Montoya, of course, still going strong. So we've got some great South Americans coming through.
Yeah, you can see as Ernie Francis came over, you were talking about that earlier, that bump there.
Whoa!
Ooh.
That's not the way to be. It's the wrong way round.
Joe Napoleon, who was up there, he's running in 6th place.
And that's big damage. He's got ripped the side off that car. So Joe Napoleon, I think he has. He's clipped the inside there, and he's ripped the left-hand side off that Turnkey 91 Industries car.
So we got the yellow flag out here. It'll be
Well,
right
one
now.
more chance now for Ernie and the boys, so to speak, because Rafa will be he'll be banging the steering wheel now. Will Rafa going, hey Joe?
Well, we thought that we were one yellow right there, and I would imagine
That's green at the moment.
Yeah.
Here's a replay.
Yeah, he was
just got
offline. Yeah, and he got big off. Yeah,
looks like he started to lose it and just tapped the wall.
Yep. So turns himself around and turns himself into trouble. Half the track in the middle of half the sidewall there in the middle of the track, and the front of that car, on the side of that car, I should say, ripped off for Joe Napoleon. And the yellow is out as we anticipated. 14 minutes to go here in our Motor City Dash. Plenty of drama, as we'd expect from Trans Am, the three-dimensional services group, putting on a show here in the Motor City Dash. And at the moment, it's this car, the number 88 of Rafa Matos, just going past and probably cursing Joe Napoleon now, going, dude, I had this one.
Yeah, that's not what he wanted to see. But I don't know. His last restart was really good, so he's just got to do that one more time. And but I see Tony Buffamonte's been catching Gar, so I don't think Gar wanted to see the caution either.
Well, and Jordan Butt in 5th place will also be smiling.
You can see that bump there on this shot as the cars come around. And what that does, it just makes the car light. And once the back of the car gets light, you lose all that grip, and it's very easy for that back end to snap around.
Well, Napoleon taken by the medical staff away. I think he wants to take a closer look at his car, but he's pretty fed up. I think that's the medical description of that. Doesn't take a doctor to tell you that. He wants to look at the car, okay? Well, the doctor's been nice.
I think he's going to decide after this one that area between turn 1 and 2, for Napoleon, this was his Waterloo.
It was his Waterloo. Ah, good work. Certainly that car was blown apart, that's for sure. 12 minutes to go, and this is going to be tough for Rafa because he's going to be praying that Corvette gets out of the way, turns its lights off, and gives him a chance to run, because he doesn't want to get... I mean, the worst possible scenario is if we get down to like the 8-minute mark, and then he's got an almighty dash. If there's something goes wrong, he wants more time, not less.
Right, yeah. And Gar and Tony, track position is so important here.
Yeah.
It's hard to pass here. So the restart is the best, your best shot. If they can't make anything happen now, I don't think the rest of the race they're going to be able to get back up to Rafa.
So officially this will be a timed race. So when that clock goes down to 0, no Kawasaki's in this race, but there's plenty out bopping about on the water. That looks fine. Might be a little nippy today. He's got the right shorts for it.
He's on camera.
Yeah, he does. He's putting on a show for us. He got up this morning and said, you know what? The cameras are going to be there on Belle Isle. I think I'll head out. Right now, though, the cameras are on this man, Rafa Matos, and he's got one more major restart. I'll tell you what, since his first mistake at Sebring, where he did lose out to Mark Miller, he's certainly got better at his restarts as Rafa. And
that'll do it.
That'll do it.
You get beat by a guy bad on a restart once, and it's like, okay, never again.
Yeah. Well, his karting experience will give him everything you need, because you can win and lose kart races on a restart for sure. So, just to remind you, we've had a doubleheader this weekend here in Detroit, the Muscle Car Challenge, won by Tony Buffamonte. Rafa Matos took second in that one, the man from Boca Raton, Florida. Gar Robinson was third, Keith Prochuk in 4th position, and Jordan Butt in 5th. And we've got an interesting battle today, because we've got a similar top 5 in Rafa leading from Gar Robinson, Buffamonte third, Francis Jr. up there this time. Francis Jr. had a clutch problem yesterday and wasn't able to figure. He finished 13th in the end, having got up to as high as 6th at one point, but he's definitely in the hunt today. Jordan Butt in 5th place, already scored a podium in Homestead and looking to do similar. Shane Lewis reacting well after what was not the easiest of starts, having forgot his credentials. And Joe Napoleon, as you saw, causing the incident which was putting us under yellow right now. And now we're under the 10-minute mark of this race. It's a 100-mile race, or we go down to clock if it's slowed down because of caution, and therefore the clock now becomes the more important factor in this one.
Well, this series talking about how it has been coming more and more and more back into prominence. 2 weeks hence, you guys are going to be racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Doesn't get much better than that either.
I was going to say, yeah, if you want to go to... I mean, that's what I love about the 12-round schedule of this, is it really does take in, you know, the Road Americas, Daytona. We go to COTA, which, of course, isn't an iconic circuit yet, but it's certainly getting prestige, and certainly because of Formula One, it's a great circuit to race at, and I know the Trans Am's like going there, but to finish it off at Daytona, having started at Sebring, I mean, it really is, as a driver, you've got to think, wow, I want to be part of that.
Yeah,
even this guy wants to be part of it. He's beavering around.
There's some cool, you know, you look at the schedule, like you said, and I don't think any driver would be like, nah, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, all these tracks are awesome. So, and it's Indy.
And also, if I were a driver, just to be rubbing shoulders with the IMSA boys, some real household names in that. Elio, I just saw him this morning leading the track. You know, Will Power, Scott Dixon, equaling the record of Michael Andretti in terms of wins. These are really, really great, iconic names of current-day motorsport in America. And then you've got all of these guys who are making their names, some of which have been around for many years, some of which are just making their names. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I agree with Tom that this series is as relevant today as it's ever been. I mean, talk about race on Sunday, buy on Monday. Certainly, I know that the head of motorsport for Chevrolet is here today, enjoying the activities, and he would love nothing more than to shake Rafa's hand at the end of this one.
Again, that top five, it has not changed. It's very early on. Rafa Matos with that lead, Gar Robinson, Tony Buffamonte, Ernie Francis Jr., and Jordan Bupp. So we're going to have a real shootout coming up here, and I think this is going to be one wild restart.
Yep.
Looks like was that Tom?
That was
Sheehan?
Tom. He's back on track. Yeah, the damage isn't too bad. Yeah.
Doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look like they put enough tape on it.
No. You know, and I said what we don't need, or what Rafa doesn't need, is for it to get down to the 7-minute mark, and we're getting to that point. So he's going to start getting a little bit nervous now, because you got to be thinking, if you're second or third, that with 5 minutes to go in this one, it's given everything, and certainly in Gar Robinson's case, what the heck?
Yeah, that's
got nothing to lose.
Yeah, absolutely, and they might. Again, with Buffamonte there, I mean, he might want them to go side by side, and that might help him out a little bit. But
well, guys, where would you make your move? I mean, Tom, you know the course. Jake, you know how to drive pretty good. Where would you go? Where would you make your move here at Belle Isle?
I like Gar's answer to that.
Yeah.
He said coming out of 13.
Yeah.
And into 1. He said it's a gutsy move.
So tuck up behind at 13, get the drive.
If you can get a good run off of 12 and go for it out of 13, I don't think they'd be expecting it, and that's where I do it.
I'm not going to go against Gar Robinson.
All right, well, I'm going to pick my corner. I'm going to go good through 5, try and make it up the inside of 6, and then head down the back straight. That's my idea.
You know, it's interesting that this is the third time since the Trans Am has come back here to the streets of Belle Isle. The first time it was just an exhibition race, and I believe it was because it got added to the schedule so late that some folks who might have run here didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the budget to be able to come here, so they made it a non-points race. But last year, when we had not only the TA2, but also the TAs and the TA4s running their own races, that became a points race. That's what we got this year.
This is such an iconic circuit, and I'm looking at the top 3 for so many different reasons wanting to win this. It's going to be an absolute Motor City dash. 5 minutes to go in this one, and the safety car still out there at the moment. But Tony Buffamonte looking to put pressure on Matos in the championship. Rafa looking to take home a treasured trophy from winning at Belle Isle. Ernie Francis Jr. loves this circuit, wants to win here and take his name into TA2 and take a podium. And he is desperate to get past Gar Robinson, and Gar Robinson's got his own reason for wanting to win. Get back-to-back wins. He won here in 2017. Then there's Jordan Bupp just behind all of them, starting to really settle now into a rhythm, having got a podium already this season. He would love nothing more than to dive through and do exactly that at the end of this one. 4 minutes and 25 seconds, and Rafa is trying to think of everything possible to make sure that the mechanical grip, everything he's got underneath him, is right for the restart of this.
So what do you think? If we get the start, well, we still got the lights on the pace car. So that negates the question I was going to ask, which was how many laps you think we can get in if we had started right here. But we got another lap under yellow, so it may be
two
no
laps.
more than two.
Yep. And more damage here. What's happened here?
I think that's Napoleon. I think he got back in.
Oh, okay, so he's just got back in,
Yeah, he's getting it
with
out
half
of the way.
a car. Sort of one-man Napoleon there.
Napoleon's had better days. Let's put it that way.
He certainly has. He's been in bigger battles and probably better battles for him. Well, surely they're going to let him go now. Well, obviously they're not going to let him go until it's safe, but this is real nail-biting stuff.
Yeah, I think they had to abort the start because the 91.
Gotcha.
But it'll be green this time by.
Okay, so we are in for a Motor City Dash here. Detroit City. What a place to go Trans Am racing. 2018 in front of all of America's top sports car and IndyCar racers and teams. Roger Penske, I'm sure, will be smiling wryly at seeing Trans Am here, having been such a proponent himself back in the late 60s and early 70s. But now it's the modern-day Rafa Matos leading the Chevrolet onslaught of this track again. But will Mustang come back with Bufamonte, who had a great run yesterday? 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. 100-mile race, part of this doubleheader here in Belle Isle. And Rafa wishing that Corvette would go quicker than he is. Now, that's what I meant, Jake. It's not easy being in that position, is it?
No, sometimes it's not. You know, Ernie likes to get a little close. He got pretty close last year, but yeah. And that's another thing. You know, you have to talk to the drivers on that as well, because sometimes the speed they give you is too slow, and they're in between gears. So that can get them pretty frustrated too.
Well, this is literally going to be a white flag and a race situation, because we're literally going to have a sprint to the end here in our Motor City Dash 2018. Rafa Matos starts to wind himself up as the Corvette's lights go off. This is it. Last chance hotel for Rafa to hold off the rest of this field who wants to pounce all over him. Out comes the Corvette. It's all up to the Brazilian now. Will it be Samba time, or will Gar Robinson take it home for Texas? Here we go.
Gar got a pretty good start on him. He's stuck right with them.
Good restart by Bufamonte in third. Francis Jr. under pressure from Buff in fifth place. But Rafa holding him off at the moment. Good start from Ernie Francis Jr. He's reacted well. He's coming up on Bufamonte. Bufamonte jigs to the inside. He's going to have a go at Gar Robinson. He's side by side but can't quite do it, and he has to lift off. And somehow Gar Robinson survives. But boy, did he have to brake late. He got sideways for a moment, but managed to gather it all. Meanwhile, Rafa Matos holding them all off, and not in any of these fights at the moment, but trying to go as hard as he can through 5. Heading up for 6 of the long back straight for the last time.
This is going to be the fastest part of the race course. Watch it.
Bufamonte's surely going to get alongside him as they go down the back straight. Bufamonte.
And that is just what Matos wants to see. You know, now he doesn't have to drive out of, that's the hardest thing, not to drive out of your mirror. But with Gar's locking it up.
Yeah, Gar's in a lot of trouble in the restart. Oh, Bufamonte gets a touch. Was that Ernie Francis that had a touch, or was there a mechanical problem? But Bufamonte's still going, but he's lost a spot of 34. Francis has gone through, and he's up to third, and that's just what Francis Jr. wanted. Butts up to fourth, and now Bufamonte fifth. Real disaster for Tony Bufamonte, who was looking so good for the weekend after yesterday. Rafa Matos, though, meanwhile, is headed for his third victory of the season. The number 88 has looked sublime and superb here around Belle Isle all weekend long. And as Tom Michaels put it, he's not put a foot wrong. Brilliantly done by Rafa Matos. The former Indy man impresses brilliantly here in Trans Am, his new home, and possibly you are looking at the potential new champion in weeks to come. Indianapolis just around the corner, another place where Matos will want to go well. But that was a superb performance under tough conditions. A 100-mile race with a lot of caution and a lot of times for others to challenge. Rafa would have loved to have got that lead of 5 seconds at one point to really dominate this race, but he wasn't, because everybody else kept hitting the walls or making mistakes and causing cautions, which meant that everybody else had a chance to have a bite at him. But he held off, kept his head. Jake, that was a superb run by Rafa.
Yeah, he showed a lot of great concentration those last few laps. And I think as soon as he saw Buffalmante and Gar going at it side by side, he just got right back in that zone. And I think, that's like I said, that's the hardest thing, is to not drive out of your mirrors.
And Tom, what do you reckon happened to Buffalmante in the closing corners of this race?
I don't know. I think he may have just overcooked it. It was the second time in 2 days that we have had a race, as far as the podium is concerned, be changed because of a situation on the last lap coming into those final turns. I think in this particular case, it was going into turn number 7, and looked like he just got a little bit too quick into there and wound up getting into a whole lot of traffic there. He still winds up, Buffalmante does, in 5th place. So he lost 2 positions, and that moves Ernie Francis Jr. up onto the podium once again. So a fine performance by him, but you see the cars, they are short-cutting back there. That is going back to a victory podium, which is now over by the Scott Fountain, which is across from us, and we're watching. That is a beautiful sight there. There you see your top 10 at the finish.
Yeah, and an amazing result for Francis Jr. His record here at Belle Isle is superb, and that podium was exactly what he wanted for sure. Gar Robertson, runner-up, and a little bit of trouble at the restart. I think he was a little flustered by the onslaught. Buffalmante challenging him and putting him under pressure, but Rafa saw none of that, and the 88 just smoothed his way. He got a little bit nervous, I'm sure, under caution, because he had a lot of time to think about that restart, did Rafa. And, that's not an easy thing to do, but I think he's just catching his breath for now. But just to confirm, Rafa Matos, Gar Robinson of San Antonio, then Francis Jr. of Florida in 3rd place. Jordan Bupp, another Floridan, in 4th position ahead of Buffalmante. Shane Lewis, 6th. Joe Napoleon is calculated as 6th place, but he was involved in that incident. There's Francis Jr., Napoleon, then Pruchak, and Paul Van Terry, who was also in the wars. The rookie, Matt Parent, in 9th position, and Stephen Lustig again, as he was in yesterday's race, in 10th position. So not a bad weekend for Rafa. 2nd place yesterday, and now he takes the win at Belle Isle. That's a great result for him.
So as we take a look, that is not the actual finishing positions up there. You've got Matos the winner, but I think it is Gar Robinson, Ernie Francis Jr., Jordan Bupp, Tony Buffalmante, that's your top 5. Shane Lewis, Joe Napoleon is still listed there, but I think he's going to go down to serial. Keith Prochek, Paul Terry, Matt Parent, Stephen Lustig. So that is the way we finish it off here for what in many ways was a very exciting Trans Am presented by Pirelli, this three-dimensional surfaces. And there he is. Give him a hand back there, because all these drivers did a great job, but no more so than Rafael Matos.
Yes, he can hear you now, folks. Give him what he deserves. A fantastic round of applause for what was an immaculate drive. There's Ernie Francis Jr. in the foreground there, and the ECC-sponsored car doing a really good job in 3rd place to get on the podium. And there's Rafa, and he's got the hat on. He's ready to go.
Now, like I was talking about, it's been about 11 years since I was dealing with him on Formula Atlantic podiums. He doesn't look a bit older. There's Ernie Francis Jr. We had him here in the booth last year with us for one of the other Trans Am races. Well-spoken. This guy's got a huge future ahead of him.
Yeah, and he could go any direction, couldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Really could. And he's trying all sorts too. He's doing a bit of K&N racing. And, of course, he's doing TA2 as well as TA this year. So that's going to make it interesting. I wonder if he does a few more TA2 races. That'd be fun. Certainly started well.
Yeah, that car that he was driving there in the TA2 race, that last year I believe was driven by Adam Andretti, that number 44 car.